నా తెలంగాణ కోటి రతనాల వీణ. This was a famous saying in the last phase of the movement. Whenever we were talking about the greatness of Telangana, we were taking we were quoting this, and this quote is of Mahakavi, our own Dasarathi Krishnamacharya. Na Telangana koti ratnala veena was the, what you call, you can say this is the mantra to say, show the greatness of Telangana. Koti ratanalu, thousand diamonds. And his anti-Nizam struggle is expressed through another quotation, Nizam Razu Taratarala Boozu. So, Dasharathi, a writer of democratic aspirations, was there in the forefront in the anti-Nizam struggle. Another important song which became so popular, and especially Deshapat Srinivas or Koti or some of the singers, those who are popular in Telangana, were singing, that is, Achalani Samudra Garbham Dachina Badabanalaminto. So, these are all the songs or the literary works our Dasharathi has created. His works, famous works are Agnidhara, Rudraveena, Mahandrodyamamu, Galib Geetalu, Timiramto Samaram. Galib Geetalu, he is translating the poetry of Mirza Ghalib into Telugu. Thus, Dasharathi has served the society through his literature, and very, very interestingly, he was the last Asthana Kavi of United Andhra Pradesh. There was a tradition of appointing Asthana Kavi in Andhra Pradesh, and Dasharathi was appointed after Vishwanath Satyanarayana's demise. Then Dasharathi was the Asthana Kavi, and N.T. Ramarao came and abolished the post unceremoniously, and that was the last where he was belittled by unceremoniously ousting from the post of Asthana Kavi. A Telangana poet who was in the forefront of anti-Nizam struggle, he was jailed for it. He has created a consciousness for the democracy, that is Dasharathi. So that is why in the last phase of our movement, we were frequently quoting Dasharathi for his spirit of Telangana. Then, after Dasharathi, we should talk about Kaloji. Dasharathi, Kaloji and Sinare, these three people were giants in Telangana literature. That is why some of the critics of Telugu literature, or the people who write about Telugu literature, quoted that these three, means Dasharathi, Kaloji and Sinare, were the Abhyudaya Kavitrayam from Telangana. Abhyudaya Kavitrayam from Telangana. So, Kaloji Narayan Rao, the next poet. Kaloji, very, very popular in the last phase of the movement. His poetry was quoted often. Poruguvadu daga jeste polimera daka tarudam. Manavade daga jeste ikkade paati pedatam. Paatarestam antadu. So, that power of poetry Kaloji Narayan Rao has brought in about the democratic aspirations of Telangana, we can see in his poetry. First, he was a Vishalandra supporter. In the first phase, in 1950s, he was a proponent of Vishalandra, but gradually he understood that Vishalandra or this United Andhra Pradesh is not going to help the people of Telangana, and they are killing the, what you call, culture of Telangana. Thus, he started propagating, he is the center for the last phase actually, if we have to say. Much before all the political struggles or organizations are formed, some intellectuals, some people who were carrying the legacy of 1969 were meeting in Hyderabad in one printing press, and Kaloji was the symbol of their unity. Kaloji, Professor Jaishankar, Natyakala Prabhakar, Professor Harnath, all these people were meeting. So, we have to say Kaloji was the pioneer of 1969 movement in that sense. Kaloji was a symbol of 1969 movement's beginnings. So, this greatness of Kaloji we can see in terms of protest and democracy. He was a thorough democrat. He never allowed any authoritarian things to run over his head. So, he was for protest and democracy. His works like Nagodava, Telangana Udyama Kavitalu, Jeevana Gatha. This Jeevana Gatha is the translation of the prophet of Khalil Gibran. Then Idi Na Godava, that is his autobiography. Bapu, 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 another poetry anthology. All these things are the contributions of Kaloji Narayan Rao. Kaloji Narayan Rao's work, all the works, all the poetry were brought in as Na Godava after, in the last phase of the movement by Natikala Press people, Telangana Information Trust friends. So Na Godava is Kaloji Narayan Rao's poetry. పోయి చెప్పినా ఫోన్ చేసినా తలిచిన వారిని పిలుచుట కొరకే. లైక్ దట్ హీ రోట్ సింపుల్ పోయట్రీ. హీ ఈజ్ నాట్ యూజింగ్ బిగ్ వర్డ్స్ టు బొంబార్డ్ ద థింగ్స్. హీ వాస్ యూజింగ్ సింప్లెస్ట్ వర్డ్స్ అండ్ గివింగ్ ద మెసేజ్ ఫర్ డెమోక్రసీ, ఫర్ తెలంగాణ. దట్ ఈస్ ద గ్రేటెస్ట్ ఆఫ్ కాళోజీ నారాయణ రావు. దెన్ కమ్స్ ప్రొఫెసర్ యశోదా రెడ్డి. ప్రొఫెసర్ యశోదా రెడ్డి, her stories in Telangana language became so popular. In 1952, she was the part of the Telangana Rachayital Sangam, which was started by Dasharati, Sinare and all those people. So, Telangana Rachayital Sangam member, being a member of Telangana Rachayital Sangam, and by writing stories, and her stories came in the book form, that is Yashoda Reddy Kathalu. In 1997, again in the last phase of the movement, she was part of the Telangana Sanskritika Vedika, and thus she served the literature of Telangana. Her works include Yechamma Muchatlu, Mauru Kathalu, Bhavika, Ugadula Uyala. All these things are Professor Yashoda Reddy's works. Whenever literature is, any literary personality is getting popularized, remember that literature should reflect the native soil. Unless and until the native soil is represented, the life of the native area is reflected, that literature cannot be popular. So Yashoda Reddy's stories reflected the life of Telangana. Thus, Yashoda Reddy is part of the Telangana Renaissance movement in the last phase too. And comes next, we will be discussing about Samala Sadashiva, a great man, a scholar par excellence, a true representative of Telangana's composite culture. A person, a teacher, retired as headmaster from Adilabad, Samala Sadashiva, studied in Marathi as he was in Adilabad. Marathi, Telugu, Hindi, all these things are interacting with his. And as a young boy, he was hearing the story of Komaram Bhim struggle. Inspired by Komaram Bhim struggle and all those things, Samala Sadashiva got shaped up ideologically. He was a scholar in Telugu, Marathi, Urdu, Farsi, English, and he was writing in all these languages. His Swaralayalu, the work of Swaralayalu, was on Hindustani music, and he is writing a book on Hindustani music, that is Swaralayalu. And on his autobiography, Yadi, was serialized in a daily newspaper. His works include Swaralayalu, Yadi, Malayamrutalu, then Sangeeta Shikharalu, Mirza Ghalib. Whoever is learning Parsi or Urdu are definitely writing about Ghalib, remember, because Ghalib is such a fascinating poet for all those who know Urdu and Persian. So, Mirza Ghalib. So, Samala Sadashiva, what is the context? He is a Pandit, no doubt. He is a scholar, no doubt. But he is talking about the discrimination of Telangana. In one of the interviews, he is saying that in 1950s, when he was teaching in the classroom, the DEO, District Education Officer, who is from coastal Andhra, and came to the class, and he was talking to the headmaster, asking that he is teaching Telugu. Is he from our area? Our area means coastal Andhra. If he is not from coastal Andhra, how can he teach Telugu? Bring someone who is from our area and make the arrangements to teach Telugu with under him. So the discrimination you can see. Samala Sadashiva was saying about this incident and saying that as I am from Adilabad and this native Telangana soil, and they are belittling or they are trying to say that we don't know Telugu. But Samala Sadashiva has given fitting reply in many occasions. In All India Radio also once he went, again the same type of question. You are a Telanganite, can you speak Telugu? As if Telugu is the monopoly. Telugu is spoken only by Andhras. That is what the hegemonistic or the, what you call, a proudish attitude of Andhras about the language was. And he said, why this Samala Sadashiva in another interview says, there is a wrong notion that in Hyderabad state we were not learning Telugu. We were learning Urdu also, but we are learning Telugu too. So this character of Samala Sadashiva representing Telangana in literature, culture, music and compositeness makes him one of the important personality of literary field in Telangana. Then Varavara Rao. All the people whom we are talking have different shades, and Varavara Rao represents a revolutionary stream. Varavara Rao started his career in poetry, not as a teacher or a professional I am talking. He started his poetry or his entry into poetry or poetic world started at a very young age, and finally in 1960s, that is simmering 60s, the entire society was into simmering mode. There was so severe crisis, and he was one of the person in a group which is known as Tiragabadu Kavulu. This Tiragabadu Kavulu is a group of poets who are questioning the society about the injustice prevalent in the society. Varavara Rao, a literary personality, a revolutionary literary personality, Srujana, a new monthly magazine, has served the Telugu literature. I am saying Telugu literature, not just Telangana literature, to a larger extent, brought under the banner of Sahiti Mitrulu, who Varavara Rao was the center of this Sahiti Mitrulu. Srujana magazine has brought a great literary tradition, literary heritage into our society. Srujana, almost 200 issues came out with beautiful literary works which are par excellence. You can't compare with the other magazines. Then he is the founder member of Virasam, Viplava Rachaital Sangam, that is Revolutionary Writers Association. As a member of Virasam, as a member of the Sahiti Mitrulu, or as the son of Telangana, he was in the forefront about demanding Telangana or describing Telangana in his works. So, in 2004, when the peace talks were held between the government and Naxalites, he was the mediator. So, you can see a writer who is talking about literature or some form of poetry is also an activist. Activist, writer, revolutionary Varavara Rao was for Telangana too. Of course, by birth he is a Telanganite, but not only birth. What decides your quality? That your involvement in the movement. Warangal Declaration, which is a famous declaration about Telangana, the meeting was held by All India People's Resistance Forum. In that Warangal Declaration, Varavara Rao was part of the whole meeting too. His works include Bijabhumi, a book which is his poetry. Many works are their poetry works, but we have to talk about Varavara Rao's contribution in terms of revolutionary movement with reference to Telangana. Remember, every stream of literature will impact the other two. Varavara Rao period or Varavara Rao's impact on revolutionary literature on Telangana is immense. And thus, you can see his contribution, his work about the captive imagination, that is his jail life, was beautifully projected. He was talking about the serious, in all his works, you can see if it is about Telangana, you will see the discrimination or injustice meted out to Telangana from not just a geographical point of view, from the ruling class point of view too. Geographical point of view means Telangana is a state where you can fix a boundary, but the democratic aspect of Telangana is much more important, where the classes which are being suppressed will have the power to say. That democratic Telangana aspect, Varavara Rao ascribed to. And Warangal Declaration, he was part of the Warangal Declaration when G.N. Sai Baba, the General Secretary of AIPRF, was organizing this meeting, and Varavara Rao was part of it. Apart from Varavara Rao, there are some poets like Cherabanda Raju, whose poetry is touching the native soil. A person from Nalgonda district, Cherabanda Raju, another member of Viplava Rachaital Sangam, died because of brain tumor, and he was what you call representing the Telangana movement, Telangana society in a very beautiful manner. Because remember, either Varavara Rao, Gaddar, or Cherabandaraju, all these people were youngsters during the Naxalbari movement. Inspired by Naxalbari, they are merging Telangana struggle with the revolutionary struggle. They are making a point that Telangana struggle is part of the larger part of revolution. That is the importance of Varavara Rao. Then comes Allam Rajayya. You can't write an essay in Telangana language, but when you write a novel in Telangana language, standard language of Telugu was not able to understand and accept it. But Allam Rajayya has written in completely Telangana language. And his stories and novels represent the story of this Telangana. That is turbulent times of the society. Inside the society there are serious crises. And there is struggle too. All these things are reflected in Allam Rajayya's works. And very important aspect about Allam Rajayya is, till then there was no novel or a creative work on Komuram Bhim. Komuram Bhim, a tribal leader who fought against Nizam in 1940s. So Komuram Bhim novel, co-authored by Sahu. Sahu was also a revolutionary activist. So Sahu and Allam Rajayya wrote Komuram Bhim, which is the best novel about Komuram Bhim even today. So, next, Professor Biruduraju Ramaraju. He was a researcher on folk culture. Till his last days, he was thoroughly researching about the folk cultures of Telangana. And in 1960s, he wrote a book that is a historical novel on Raja Sadashiva Reddy, who is part of the Medak district landscape, and he led a peasant revolt in Medak in 17th century, and he is writing a novel on Sadashiva Reddy, Raja Sadashiva Reddy, thus bringing the pre-1857 rebellions into the fore. He was a member of Telangana Rachayitala Sangham, and he participated actively in the last phase too, whenever there was a meeting of culture or literature. So thus, Professor Biruduraju Ramaraju has become synonymous with the folk culture in research. Mudiganti Sujata Reddy. Telangana Sanskritika Vedika was the form which came in which Mudiganti Sujata Reddy was also active. Her stories were compiled into 2 volumes. One is Telangana Toli Taram Kathalu. Second volume is Telangana Malitaram Kathalu. So, Tolitaram and Malitaram means earlier and later. So, these 2 works include her stories. Another important aspect about Mudiganti Sujata Reddy is she published Vattikota Alvar Swami's jail book. So, Vattikota Alvar Swami was in jail during anti-British struggle, anti-Nizam struggle. So, his experiences are written in jail. Sujata Reddy published it. Then comes Nandini Siddha Reddy. Nageti Chalallo Na Telangana, a famous song in the movement, and which won Nandi Award in the last before year or 2011. Nandi Award goes to Nandini Siddha Reddy for the song Nageti Chalallo Na Telangana. Then he was a founder president of Manjira Rachayitala Sangham. Nandini Siddha Reddy is a progressive, democratic minded literary personality. But when there was a severe repression on the poetry organizations too, or writers organizations too, severely under the Chandrababu Naidu period, so they could not serve the purpose. And they started, some of the people like Nandini Siddha Reddy started a group that is Manjira Rachayitala Sangham, which has brought out lot of literature which was completely ignored. People or members of Manjira Rachayitala Sangham wrote beautiful poetry until the last phase of our Telangana movement. You can see Nandini Siddha Reddy's and his comrades' works are very important in Telangana poetry. He played an active role in the last phase of cultural movement. Even he led it. So, leading the movement actively is definitely important for any poet, political activist. All the poets are political activists. There is no neutrality. So, Nandini Siddhareddy was a poet, political activist in the last phase of our Telangana movement. And his works include Bhumi Swapnam, Pranahita, Sambhashana, and last one, Ippati Gali. All these things are the works of Nandini Siddhareddy. Presently is the chairman of Telangana Sahitya Academy. Then comes Dr. C. Narayan Reddy, the first Gnanpith winner from Telangana. Dasharathi, as already said, Dasharathi Kaloji Sinare constitute Telangana Abhyudaya Kavitrayam. Kavitrayam means three people. These people are Abhyudaya Kavitrayam from Telangana. So, he led the protest on Tank Bund. There was a serious, attempt to appropriate all the greats into your area. Potana, originally if you think, Potana is from which district? That is Warangal district. And Potana was taken by Andhras and they were claiming that Potana is from Rayalaseema. Potana is from Orugallu. Orugallu means Oka stone or one stone. And there is Vontimita or such areas in Rayalaseema and they are taking mere names and saying that Potana is a poet from Rayalaseema, not from Telangana, trying to do it. Dr. C. Narayan Reddy, along with many literary personalities, went and protested on Tank Bund at Potana statue when such attempts were made. And last point about Dr. C. Narayan Reddy, he was the chairman of Telangana Sahitya Parishad till his death. Telangana Sahitya Parishad. Previously, you should excuse me, this is not Telangana Sahitya Parishad, it is Telangana Saraswata Parishad. Previously, it was Andhra Saraswata Parishad in Bogulakunta. That Andhra Saraswata Parishad has become Telangana Saraswata Parishad now. So, Dr. C. Narayan Reddy was in forefront in changing the name of the Telangana Andhra Sahitya Parishad into Telangana Sahitya Parishad, and he led it actively. He was inspiring the young generation, and finally, we say that Dr. C. Narayan Reddy was a multifaceted personality with lot of creative understanding about poetry. So, Dr. C. Narayan Reddy was popular in film songs also. He produced hundreds of film songs. Very interestingly, though people are saying that Andhra are 2.5 districts, Telugu is the proper Telugu, who were popular writers of this period? Dasharathi, Dr. C. Narayan Reddy were the people. Then comes Gaddar. Gaddar, a balladeer. Balladeer means who writes and sings, performs. A popular personality, inspiring thousands and lakhs of people just with one song. Gaddar, original name Gummadi Vittalrao from Gajwel, and this Gaddar was inspired by Naxalbari politics and he started Jananatya Mandali. Jananatya Mandali. Today if we see what is the contribution of Jananatya Mandali or Naxalbari to our cultural forms, all the Dhoom Dham or Telangana performers wear this Gongadi, that blanket, and the Gochi Gongadi, that costume was designed by Jananatya Mandali to make the powerful statement that we are with the people. And now you can see all the Telangana troops perform with the same style of costumes, Gochi Gongadi. So this is the contribution of Jananatya Mandali, of which Gaddar was part. And Gaddar's songs in Telangana, on Telangana, latest ones, 2 songs, very popular songs. One is Amma Telanganama Akali Kekala Ganama, which became so popular in the after 1998, which gives the statement that how Telangana is how Telangana is a victim of injustice. And the other one is the latest song, that is Podustunna Poddumida. Podustunna Poddumida song, once it comes in Jai Bolu Telangana film, the entire audience will rise and sing along with Gaddar. That's the power of the song in Telangana movement, and Gaddar fulfilled this with his revolutionary and Telangana's fervor. And he was part of the Telangana movement too. In 2010 October, he was leading Telangana Praja Front. Later he left. So, Andeshri. Andeshri, a person, an illiterate, but writing or creating a song which has been adopted as the state song, Jaya Jaya He Telangana, Janani Jaya Ketanam, song written by Andesri. This has become the state song. Another song, that is Mayamai Potunadamma Manishanna Vadu, a song, very touchy song, which speaks of the ethical fall of the society. Post globalization, how the people are getting so mechanized and they are losing, they are getting disappeared, the human is getting disappeared. This is about society. And Andesri's literary prowess is unparalleled, and he was in all the movements, all the phases, all the meetings of Telangana in the last phase. And he is a symbol of the tradition of common people as creators of great literature. He was honored by Kakatiya University with honorary doctorate, that is Andesri. Another balladeer we are talking about, Palle Kanneeru Pedutundo, a song which represents the tragic story of the artisan class in the village. After the globalization or economic liberalization, you see the traditional castes or traditional professions are getting completely raw deal. They are completely pushed into poverty because of this globalization. So that song, a great song on Telangana culture and Telangana society, Palle Kanneeru Pedutundo, Kanipinchani Kutrala, a song which was picturized in Kubusam film. And his songs, his poetry is nothing but the flavor of the soil and original to the core, that is Goreti Venkanna. He has also participated in all the meetings of Telangana movement in the last phase. Thus, all these poets or performers or balladeers, writers, they have created a consciousness to push the society further and fight for Telangana. In the next class, we will be talking about the efforts of different people who carried forward the spirit of all the poets or literary personalities who were giving this consciousness to the society.